we supposed to share any of the slides?
No, we don't use slide. We just have a conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Technology Community Roundtable. My name is Xiaoqun Zhang, the host of this show. And today that we have three guest speakers for the show, and I'd like to just invite them to introduce themselves. And I will start from Professor Feng Hou.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Feng Hou. I am the CIO at St. Louis Community College. Nice to meet you guys all, and certainly appreciate it. I'm also teaching both blockchain and AI at WashU University here in St. Louis.
Welcome, and let's move to Divyan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Divyan Gupta. I'm the founder and CEO of Dache Services. I help organizations innovate and optimize using AI and other strategies. It's a pleasure to be here and look forward to the conversations.
Welcome, and let's move to Mariana.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm associate professor at Union College, but I'm also the CEO and founder of Logica now. Logica, we do L&D and advisory services around AI ethics.
Welcome. And so the first question I'd like to just have you to dive deep is really around your engagement in emerging technology. When we talk about emerging technology, and we're really talking about blockchain, AI, metaverse, and all those technology which are just within the past few years, which are just transforming our experience and business operation, all that, and love to just get a little bit more information regarding how your work is associated with emerging technology, and maybe this time that's we just from the start from Mariana.
Sure. So my involvement is specifically around AI as an emerging technology. On the research side, I do, as a professor, I do research on the disparate impact of this technology in terms of both compliance and ethical issues. So how AI is impacting societies, how is it impacting humans, how is it impacting the environment. As a CEO, the focus is especially on how to mitigate those risks and mitigate bad and disparate impact. And so the rationale for us to start our company was really to see how we can do good and help companies refrain from having problematic impacts when they are leveraging AI. We are not against technology. We want technology to be used, but used in the right way. And so we really thought that one missing step in this transition from technological advancement to advancement with AI was really the issue of ethics. It's like, how can we do that? How can we do that transition in the right way without harming people? And that's how my involvement is around emerging tech.
Thank you. And we have also Jared just join us, and welcome. And so maybe just before we continue the conversation, and Jared, welcome, and maybe you can also introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you. I very much appreciate being here. My name is Gerard Dache. I'm the executive director of the Government Blockchain Association, and my background is kind of coming out of school. I spent some time in the military in infantry and intelligence, then got into government contracting, and then process improvement, quality assurance. I helped the first company in the United States become an ISO 9000 registrar back in the late 80s, early 90s. then went on to become director of training consulting for that ISO organization. In 2005, I got involved with something called CMMI, which is a capability maturity model. And from that point forward, traveled around the world, evaluating advanced technology solutions for government acquisitions. And in 2016, we started a meetup. In 2017, we started an association called the Government Blockchain Association. And today, we have about 50 working groups, and we've got people that work in about 500 different government offices around the world at the local, state, national, and international level, helping the public and private sector connect, communicate, and collaborate. So that's a little bit about me and my background. Thank you.
You're muted, Xiaochen.
Yeah, let's move to Feng, and if you can just dive deeper into your work.
Sure, thanks and for having me, first of all. And Gerald, I don't know if we have met, but I have presented at the GBA and the Government Blockchain Association. Go back to your question, Xiaochen, that we are truly living in probably the most exciting times, right? And the time we lived in, and we lived through two of the most hyped technology, that is the blockchain and AI. And none other technology in history has received so much attention, so much hype, and then the great potential. So in that regard, and both as the CIO, as well as previously I worked at Marivale University as the Chief Digital Transformation Officer over there. And I led the initiative to build the entire blockchain university, and that transformed the credentialing, academic credentialing system. And then now the students over there can receive transcript literally real time in less than 5 seconds, and after the students submit. And then moving forward now, fast forward to now AI. And at my own institution, then we embraced AI, and the goal obviously is trying to support our students and help students learn. And also we're developing AI use cases to improve operational efficiency. And it is clear that recently there have been quite a few surveys, and the most recent survey from Educational Board Advisory Board (EBA) shows that close to 70% of both students and college employees have actively used or are using AI tools, generative AI, that is. And so that is a reality. And the question for us is then, how can we then lead this momentum and then embrace the tools and create these learning student-centered apps and to help our students learn. In that regard, then we have specifically partnered with Google, and we have built the AI foundation on the Google Cloud and leveraging Google's enterprise. And I'm not here, obviously, advocating or advertising for Google, but however, just want to share that we are now developing a number of use cases, the things like, for example, how can we get students the admission, right, through some conversation? And how can we transform our help desk with AI-assisted kind of instructions, and including things like even resetting the password and so on. And then we are also leveraging AI to help review our college has a history of 60 years. That means so we have 60 years of board policies and correspondent administrative procedures, and almost inevitably that there are a few that are inconsistent and may not even be in agreement. So in the past, you normally do a board policy research that's both laborious and time-consuming. And so now we're building some use cases to do that job as well for us. So we're both enhancing our learning capabilities for our students. And in that regard, and we actually have first, got together a group of a very enthusiastic faculty members and develop training materials and the training programs to help both students and faculty. And then we very quickly assembled a AI governance committee and research, and then create our own AI policies and to establish guardrails. And we do have certain issues that with AI that we have to deal with, such as privacy, and then such as academic integrity, as well as even just the appropriateness of using AI. So we're putting all this effort together, and then I'll be more than happy to share later with more specifics.
Thank you. And let's move to Divan.
Thank you, Xiaoqing. Once again, pleasure to be here. So there are 3 touch points really that I work on. One is the advisory part. The second is capacity building, and the third is actual AI products. On the advisory, I work with a lot of companies, organizations, especially in the software industry, where we're kind of helping a lot of the clients cut through this fog. I mean, this new technology is very good, right? Everybody knows that it's awesome in terms of efficiency gains and all, but people are cautious. They don't really have an organizational strategy in place. There is no AI strategy in place, which actually helps them change the culture, because you have to change the operating culture to be able to absorb this new technology and actually benefit from the gains. You can have some topical tactical gains, but without a cohesive, comprehensive strategy, you are unable to kind of really latch on to the AI platforms. And, for instance, Professor House talked about integrity and security. That's the same thing for organizations. Like, for instance, how do you make sure that your people are actually using tools that are ring-fenced, that have security guardrails, the client data doesn't get leaked, it gives you the right level of inputs. But there's a fundamental question even before that. How do people whose skill sets themselves are under development know what good looks like, know what accurate looks like? So how do you do that capacity building in those people? So there's multiple things at the same time. So that advisory kind of helps cut through this fog. It helps in actually enabling a full-fledged digital transformation using AI. On the capacity building, I work with a lot of communities across APAC and India, where we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, SMEs, SMBs, because they don't have a lot of insights into really how to use AI. Some have an idea, I can log on to ChatGPT and kind of get this out. But again, how do you know what's good? How do you know what's accurate? And how do you integrate that as part of a cohesive, sustainable, competitive business strategy? So there's a lot of capacity building conversations going on there. I was recently in Indonesia, and we were talking to a company about blockchain and AI in farming, and how do you kind of use that entire end-to-end part for improving yields and pest control and farm to kind of table food supply. So a lot of conversations around that. And third is AI products. So for instance, my company, Kasia, has one of the world's largest curated technology news site called Top Tech News. We launched that in the pre-AI age. That was complete automation, one developer. And right now we're developing a platform where that one developer also will not be doing full time, because AI is going to take over completely from end to end content understanding, generation, that entire process of doing content. We have, in fact, multiple AI products, a lot of custom GPTs also. So we are starting to kind of, get into the weeds, as they say, of AI and seeing what happens. I'm particularly very happy for one of the custom GPTs that we launched that was to address mental health, because mental health, loneliness, and depression is going to be a big thing. So we launched Trusted Counselor, and that's an always 24/7 available, your personalized kind of health counselor available within the custom GPT world. So these are the 3 legs that I kind of include when we work with AI and other technologies. You're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, the next round, I would like to just have you to, discuss a little bit about the customer problems or your stakeholder problem that you help to address, because each one of you really serve a very different community. And say, for example, Jared, that you serve the government agency, and Devan, you serve the corporate from the consulting side. That's Feng, and Mariana, you serve the learners in general. So I think here, what are the challenges and opportunities and that's your stakeholders face, and in responding to the emerging technology. And this time, maybe let's start from Gerard.
Well, thanks. I really like something that Divyan just said a minute ago when he was talking about one of the solutions. He talked about the one for depression and loneliness, because there's a recognition that if everybody starts moving to these AI and these digital solutions, and we essentially do more Zoom meetings instead of in-person meetings, that there's this isolation that occurs that will have an impact on mental health. And so consequently, that's a problem that will be caused from a future state, right? And I think that's something that we all need to think about right now. We've all seen the chart that talks about how fast change happens, right? So the technology that went from like the printing, the printing press to the telephone to as the technology moves, it goes faster and faster and faster. And it used to be that if you wanted to be ahead of the power curve, you had to think one step ahead. We're not there anymore. You can't think one step ahead. Now you have to think 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead, because change is moving so quickly. If you think, okay, well, I'm going to be ahead of the curve by doing stuff with AI, everybody and their mother is doing stuff with AI, right? So you're going to, the challenge on all of our organizations and people looking for jobs and everything is to not just think about what's going to happen in the near future, but it's got to be, okay, if this happens in the near future, what are going to be the effects, i.e. loneliness and depression? And then what are the problems that are going to be solved there? And of course, there's going to be other people trying to solve those problems. How do I distinguish myself? So while I'm happy to answer your question about specifically in our community, but I think for all of us, we've got to be not just forward thinking, but we have to be advanced forward thinking, right? Because change is happening so rapidly. And the only way for us to be good at that, I think, is to have dialogues like this where we can bring people together and ask, okay, well, what do we think is going to happen next? What are the problems that's going to cause? And how do we address those problems, right? With the GBA, our goal really is to bring government and industry together. So it's not just to serve the governments. It's really to bring them together. Because I believe that as far as blockchain is concerned, the government is not now, but it will be probably the largest spender of money in that technology. And I also believe that there is a war waging for the soul of blockchain. Is it going to become this decentralized, equity, equal playing field for everybody? Or will it become a tool for a few powerful entities to have control? And so we are walking that tight wire with helping governments understand they can move forward, right, in a way to release control and have good governance, yet at the same time not have anarchy. So I'm not sure if that's an exact answer to your question, but those are some thoughts that pop into my mind.
Thank you.
If I may, Xiaoqian,
Yeah, go ahead.
add a quick comment to what Gerald, and that's exactly spot on, because I think that's going to happen with AI as well. People are concerned about, the open source AI with regard to, the closed source. And with back to the blockchain, and I currently also serve on what is called the Trust Over IP Foundation. I'm a co-chair of a working task group, and it really came from what is used to be called the Sovereign Foundation. When we probably, Gerald, you certainly are familiar with what is called the SSI, self-sovereign kind of identity principle. And in that principle, it states that identity really belongs to the owners, to the individual citizens. And then I am seeing that shifting to say, well, even though the identity belongs to the individuals, but it also belongs to the organization, to the corporate. So yes, absolutely, that's a legitimate concern. I just want to make a quick comment.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's from the technology alienation. That's academic topic and also a very practical. And I think there's a lot of very important work have been done there. And go back to the question, and maybe that's Mariana, that you can dive deep into your community and what problem or challenge and opportunity emerging tech bring to them. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I think that, well, based on some of the research that I'm doing, I'm collaborating with University of Notre Dame and IBM on the research on what are the challenges that private companies are facing in integrating risk mitigation and ethical awareness within their staff, right? And what kind of AI governance they're implementing and why they're implementing it, and what are the goals of that, right? So by looking at that kind of research, you see where I think the problem, or at least one of the problems, really is like there are companies that want to implement AI, right? Implement new technologies. They want to implement it because it makes sense from an organizational standpoint. It makes sense in terms of ability to cut costs and speed up processes and innovation. But they also are sort of depending on the industry. But in general, they're also aware of the risks, the impacts of this new technology. And there is, however, a disconnect, right? Like the willingness to use it, the excitement around it, but also the fear of what are we going to do with it if it kind of starts impacting our workforce, for instance, in a way that is detrimental. What are we going to do if it starts impacting our clients in a way that is detrimental? What are we going to do if jobs are going to be lost? So people are thinking about it, but ready solutions are yet not available, or clear guidelines are yet not available. There is a huge development of a legislative effort in the European Union with the UI Act and other legislations, again, the European Union. And that's going to have a ripple effect in the US as well. So there is an element of compliance. But I think that people want to do the right thing and organizations want to do the right thing. But the question is how? One of the steps is really to build that awareness about that. Other panelists here were talking about, like building that self-reflection in the people who are using AI. What does it mean to use it in a way that is efficient, but also safe? That basic level of awareness is what is actually missing. Before we start implementing complicated governance, our people need to empower your people. And that's what I'm seeing, that kind of, let's start with and that could mean two things. And that's what we're doing with Logica now. We do two things. One is like a basic understanding on the one hand. On the other hand, is a more like persona-based, tailored type of understanding around AI, like HR. What do HR people need to know about AI to use it well? What do people in procurement need to know about AI to use it well? This is more like persona-based. And I think we need that if we want to start really thinking about efficient use of this technology.
Thank you. And again, that's, I think, for our society, and the researchers play a very important role to ask the right question, to observe, what can just come as both the positive and the negative, and then bring those, research or questions forward, and then using evidence to really just, make sure that, all those hypotheses being tested in a way where that's the risk of being mitigated properly, and without we have to suffer from the long-term impact if those questions are not being asked properly. And now let's move to Divan.
Yeah, so I think I want to kind of step back and three examples. One, I was talking to a major Middle Eastern government. We were talking about AI implementation, right? And we kind of painted a vision for them, but they came back with a chatbot example. The other one was that I was talking to some of the colleges and institutions in Indonesia about AI and how to kind of bring really and upgrade the content that is the curriculum for students. And there really was no thought around it. And then comes the third part, is the organization that I work with, right? One of the leading fintech in the US. The people in that company are scared from AI. But this is when they've not even evaluated how you can actually unlock optimization and innovation. And I think there's something to do with, in a sense, what Gerard also mentioned about the fact that people are getting overwhelmed right now with information. They're getting overwhelmed with the affairs of the world, right? And AI, at the very basic level, if you think about it, is part of innovation management. If you don't have the proper culture for innovation management, you will not be able to unlock the benefits from technologies like AI. And that's hard to teach. That's why companies and individuals who are going to be fast on the uptake on integrating this either at a personal level. So let's say if it's a software developer and they're smart and they know how to talk to an AI platform, because you're talking about really communication skills now. You're talking about logical thinking. You're talking about structured thinking. You're thinking from output first, input next, right? And you're thinking about how do I kind of process the data? How do I give the data? How do I look at the output that I want? How do I know this is right? And if it's wrong, how do I prompt the systems to get it right? So you will start seeing a little bit of distancing between organizations and individuals. In my mind, the first couple of years, you're going to be seeing implementation across the easy areas, even though they're regulated, healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing, and then you actually see the implementation across more core industries. And that's why I'm not surprised that more than 60 countries right now have national AI policies in effect, policies till 2030, till 2045. Talking about how do we look at AI, how do we look at AI governance, how do we look at AI ethics, but more importantly, how do we look at upskilling a workforce that can think in those terms, that can talk in those terms, and actually interact with those systems. There will also be questions around national AI systems. We've seen in the past and then again, I think it was Gerard who mentioned, if there are powerful companies who are controlling AI, what's not to say that they can just switch off your access at a country level or at an organization level if you are, not following their rules. So I think there's going to be a lot of push and pull. My also other feel is that you will see a faster rate of AI adoption from countries that have a higher aging problem rather than a lot of companies in the global south, because if they go whole hog on the AI adoption, you're going to have a lot of unemployment. So there's going to be a very good mix of these movements that we'll see. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are still kind of out there trying to figure out what this means. And it will come down to how processized are you in understanding and really going after these technologies.
Thank you. And yeah, from moving forward, and anyone can just jump in anytime, and we just have continue the more a fireside chat kind of conversation. And after we dive deep into the opportunity, challenge, and all that, I want each one of you, or just some of you, to just share some of the most exciting use cases that you have. Maybe each person have one, and because again, when you just look at a blockchain or AI, there's so many use cases, and but maybe you can just share with us one of the most exciting use case that you think that can scale and have the biggest impact, and then our audience can just get a better understanding why people get so excited about emerging technologies. And this time, let's start from Feng, and then others feel free to jump in. Yeah.
Great. If I may just also quickly make a comment. I think the awareness of AI technology is absolutely critical. As a matter of fact, just last week, I was invited to give a presentation to a group of university and college trustees, board members. And one of the trustees came to me to say, Professor, can you just make your presentation in plain English? I just happen to have an English major. I said, okay, you just put in my English major for my undergraduate degree to test. But at the same time, I think to Gerald's point that we also have to look at the 3, 4, if not more steps ahead. And about 6 months ago, I went to a national conference and made a presentation at that time. And I was still trying to get everybody to say, pay attention, because AI is not a fad. It's not going to go away. And then try to learn as much as you can, understand the significant impact on higher education. That's my field. And then 6 months later, I was invited to the same conference. So now what we're looking at is then that AI is a must-have skills that the college graduate and university graduates must have, or otherwise we're not doing the students a good service. So speaking also quickly back to the challenges, the first challenge that we faced was then, since so many students have already started using AI, and the number one, of course, immediately the concern is academic integrity. How can we then stop some of the plagiarism and cheating? And that got certainly off kind of like a little chaos, and even some of the kind of a so-called detection tools didn't work that well anyway. And there has been some national use cases that have wrongfully identified students and so on. And the second kind of a challenge we have, I also want to share, is then that the inadequate of the IT system, since I am currently a CIO, and how can you then shift what is traditional in a IT shop? I have close to about 100 people, but they have all been assigned to their own specific work and supporting ERPs and learning management system and all the others. It's hard to get a group of people out then now trying to build the AI applications. So that's one of the reasons we partner with Google. So back to what are some of the exciting use cases to us? I mean, so right now, the use cases that we're building, and hopefully that's going to help our students. We recommend to both the students and the faculty members through this governance committee with faculty members, and recommended the AI resources that they should use, and also recommend a list of AI tools that the students should avoid. And that's just kind of provide some kind of guidelines. And to us, the most exciting use cases at this point, it's really trying to get the faculty to use AI, how to efficiently address some of the major challenges. And one of the challenge use cases we're building, for example, is that we have a computer science professor, and at the end of each semester, she has somewhere around 30 students in her class, and they build this kind of projects, coding, and then the professor has about 1 week to grade all of the sometimes thousands of lines of coding, and that's essentially impossible. So now we build an app trying to assist this professor, not trying to replace them, but however, as an assistive tool to help them review the codes, identify some of the challenges for the professor to move forward. And another use case is that we also are, as I mentioned earlier, is to, you all know that the college admission process can be very tedious, sometimes confusing, or wrong information got delivered, and that's affecting the students. Like, for example, the transferred students with the transcript, right, coming in. And so we're developing, as I said, AI use cases that can help turning this into a conversation And at the end of the conversation, and then the AI would just pop up a kind of a mission form, ask this prospective student to review and acknowledge, confirm, and then that'll be it. That'll be the mission process. So we are obviously, we have done the discovery session, identify a number of interesting use cases that our users community, not IT or technologists wanted to build. Things that our student services, our academic affairs, and whatever they think that'll be helpful, and then we'll help them do that.
Thank you. And I see Jared, your hands up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to comment on something Fang said, which is actually brilliant, but it opens up a whole a can of worms that I think is really super important. When he spoke about how the that person said, "Professor, can you just make sure that your presentation is in English today?" Right? I can't tell you how important it is to be able to realize that technology doesn't build the answers for the future. People do. Right? And your ability to be able to communicate with people is incredibly powerful, right? And so I have another business, my commercial business is called Common Sense Solutions. I try to keep everything at about a 5th grade level, because I found over the years that while we have people here that are incredibly brilliant on many different subjects, we all tend to baseline. Our lowest common denominator for us typically is about 5th grade. And so if you can communicate these complex concepts on a 5th grade level, you can talk to everybody. You can talk to politicians, you can talk to business leaders, you can talk to technologists, right? I cannot overemphasize for people that are looking, for jobs and advancement, right? The importance of being able to communicate on a 5th grade level. I have people contacting me all the time trying to impress me, right? And when they impress me with very, very big words, right, my antenna goes up and I start to get a little worried, right? And one other thing as it applies to this field, we've had a lot of corruption. We had a lot of failure in our systems, right? From 2017 to 2023, probably 75% of the blockchain projects failed. And the reason they failed in large part is because people became so enamored with the technology that they forgot about foundations, right? And so, and a lot of people should have asked basic 5th grade questions, but didn't, because they were so starstruck by the words, right? You think of FTX as an example, right? They were using words like zero knowledge proof, and well, this is a blockchain, you can't possibly understand it, right? And people didn't ask the basic questions that they should have asked. But it kind of goes back to what Bernie Madoff did, right? Nobody questioned Bernie Madoff because they were so struck by the star power. The importance of being able to communicate plainly and clearly, I think, is probably one of the most important tools that we need to communicate to our young people for them to succeed. So just a thought on the subject.
Thank you. And anyone from the use case side, any comment?
Yeah, I can probably add. So one of the use cases that we kind of worked on was around farming. And I think it was a brilliant use because it had multiple effects, network effects. So at the farming level, there were IoT sensors, drones being used to collect data. And you had fertilizer, soil, weather data patterns. And then AI was kind of used to identify opportunities for different kind of crops that could be grown. What kind of yields could come out. It also helped in pest control and management. So if you think about it, there were farmers who were learning how to kind of, use this new age technology to get a better yield and better use of natural resources, minimize environmental kind of, impact by being very precise on how much water to use and everything. But more importantly, if you kind of run this again and again through farming communities, you're now starting to contribute towards enhanced food security, because there's more predictability about the crops that you're kind of doing, right? There's more predictability about the soil that you're managing, and therefore you know exactly what will happen. And at some point of time, countries which have a larger agrarian kind of contribution to the economy will see a percentage contribution to the GDP. So there's a complete network effect of utilizing one technology in one area and starting with just one piece and then kind of rolling it out to communities. And that's why, if you think about it, most of the ASEAN countries, and even Middle East and in India, for instance, in their national AI policy documents, have agriculture as one of the primary areas where AI implementation is going to be done. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? So from my perspective, the most exciting use cases I'm seeing are around education, as it was said. So within universities, we see AI being implemented more and more. We see a lot of ChatGPT like use within not just the student communities, but also professors and people in admission, as it was said. And so across the college, people are using AI in this way. And as it was said, I think that's a very exciting use case, or at least can lead to very exciting use cases. Just for being a professor myself, I know what grading can be tedious. I know giving even feedback on papers for students can be a long, tedious process. And ChatGPT can help to just, create faster, more comprehensive, more even clearer kind of feedback, and cuts your time in half. As with all these things that are exciting, I always wish that some prompt engineering courses were offered for staff at colleges, for instance. It's like, are people in colleges aware that you can use ChatGPT in a way that you can actually leverage it in a way that is actually more efficient? So prompt engineering is one of those very simple, if you will, skills that needs to be taught across all colleges to staff, professors, students, and it is it just can be like a manageable thing to learn, but it's also just one very required skill. So that is like something that I think universities and colleges should put more effort in. On the other side, what I'm on a completely different topic, what I'm really saying, and we were discussing about this, I think, a few days ago. In medicine, I'm seeing in the healthcare sector, there's a variety of use cases, but there's a lot of resistance to use AI, except for very simple things like taking notes or scheduling. That is a good thing, that there is that kind of risk aversion in that kind of vertical, and in that kind of community, there's a high risk aversion. But even for things like taking notes and scheduling, you still need to make risk assessments. You still need to put guardrails in place, because like these tools can be biased, can be unfair, can be detrimental to human rights in a way that you don't even imagine. So even in those simple cases that you think like are low risk, you don't want to import any kind of disparate impact. So these are sort of the two worlds I think are where AI is more exciting.
Thank you. And as you can see, the use cases really cover very, broad range, from just really the daily usage, from you leveraging Gen AI, or to just, create content and reducing the administrative work for everyone, to just more broader and use case as, more fundamental, like the farming and the different industry specific use case. And the last question we are going to discuss is really around the job of future, where that's we are talking about people, universities, and corporate government all are excited about emerging technology, but there are also concerns about emerging technology. Some concerns about job displacement, other concern about skills of, for example, next generation of learners, and what kind of skill sets are really important for them. And of course, for people who are in the, workforce now, and then how can they just make sure that, they are continue to be competitive. Then from the broader organizations that, who are embracing or not embracing emerging technology, what will be the impact for them? And then how can they just develop a effective strategy to, keep being competitive and also just not being disrupted in the future. So there are a lot of exciting things and concerning things happening. And last question to all of you is that how do organizations, individuals prepare themselves for job of the future? And I see, Feng, your hands up, and we can start from you, and then we go back to others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most important questions that we, certainly for those of us who work in education, to develop the future workforce is, extremely important. The reason I asked earlier, Xiaoqian, that if I can share a slide that was kind of a recent result, a survey result from McKinsey and the company. And it shows not only how much AI is going to impact the future of jobs and also different education levels. And we're talking about moving the needles. For example, that you're talking about just the automation without the AI, and you're looking at high school graduates and some college degree, associate degree, or four-year degree, and you're looking at all about 40%. That's without AI. And with AI added together, and then if it is just a high school level jobs, and 64% of the jobs are likely to be replaced by 2030. And so that's just a few years from now. So this is from McKinsey. And so that's why, and that sense of urgency, then we have to work with the industry. And certainly, AI, I personally don't believe that AI is going to replace, that many jobs per se without creating new jobs. So that's what for us as the educators, that we need to focus on a few things. Number one, I think that we need to identify what are those new jobs that the AI is helping creating, right? And we all know, for example, prompt engineer, maybe one, maybe there's some other kind of AI assistant or kind of symbiotic synergy that we can build. And I recently wrote an article about that as well. And then the second thing that we also need to do is to work closely with the industry to see where each of those industries are moving to. For example, in the St. Louis area, we have the Boeing company here. We also have several large, like the labs and as well as the financial institutions. So we're trying to understand what their future job needs are, and then trying to provide the training and in the medical area as well. So the third thing that I think is also we have to be fully aware, back to the education part, understand that the impact of AI on our own current organization and the jobs. And as a matter of fact, I am in the process of developing a model and trying to see that I shared that I currently have close to about 100 employees in IT, and every often that we have to deal with how some of the staff's jobs are going to be become outdated and obsolete, and then how can we help them in transition into a new kind of a profession, new career, and help them to move forward with that. So that's just a few points I'd just like to share.
Thank you. Yeah, so from there, that's you quoted McKinsey data, and I remember I read also, some data from IMF regarding, then by 2025, that's 80 million jobs will be displaced, and then there are more than 90 million, jobs will emerge. But, one question, when you just see this, kind of data, and then you say, whose jobs are being displaced? And then when you emerge, when new job opportunity are emerged, are they offered to the people whose jobs are being displaced or taken, or they just create more opportunity for people who already have a job in this? And then how can we just keep those balance? And then this, I think the aggregate number sometimes tell a story, but it definitely doesn't tell the whole story. There's a lot of things need to be done, behind that. And Jared.
Thank you. I was struck recently when I was talking to a friend of ours who was looking for a job, and she said that in talking to hiring managers, she said, look, the problem the hiring managers have right now is that there's all these AI bots that are writing resumes and submitting job applications for people. So somebody came up with a great idea. Hey, if you're looking for a job, use AI, right? Well, the net result of that is these hiring managers are getting thousands, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'll just kind of make, thousands, millions, billions of resumes every day, right? And when they bring the candidates in, those candidates don't represent, the resumes don't represent the candidates because it was generated by AI and mass sent out. So what I've been told is the hiring managers don't even open those emails anymore, right? So that if you're looking for a job and you're looking at AI as solving the problem there, the AI is essentially just creating a new problem. And another friend that came to me recently, in fact, he's got a tool that we're making available to GBA members, that if you want to go for a grant, you can put information about your company, your product, your service in this AI tool. It will go ahead and search the world for all the AI, for all the grants that you're eligible for. It'll write the grant proposal. You can review it, you press a button, it submits it, and then you only pay a fee if you win the grant. So if the grant's awarded, then the fee comes out of that and it's written into the grant proposal. And everybody's jumping up and down like, wow, this is brilliant. And it is. But here's the thing. This is not the only guy who's going to think of this, because as soon as this comes out, 10, 15, 100,000 other people are going to do the same thing, and we'll be back at the same place. So what we have to realize is that as AI solves a lot of these problems, it's creating new problems. And what's going to now become a premium is going to be personal connections. So by all means, invest in the technology, by all means, research it, think forward in terms of what that's going to mean, and then fill the gap with the relationships that you're going to need. Why do people want to go to Ivy schools? It's not for the education anymore. You can get the most advanced education on YouTube. You can get the most advanced education in a million other places. It's connecting with people that have achieved at a high level, so that after you get out of school, they open doors for you. Those types of relationships are available in other ways through these different groups and associations. But I cannot emphasize enough, when you're thinking about AI, think about how essentially everybody else is going to do the same thing, and how you need to augment it with relationships through networking opportunities, and don't forget about those relationship aspects.
Yeah, and I think again, let's go back to GBA's work. That's you through the years that you have just help so many people establish those meaningful relationship and all that. I think that is great. And also what you mentioned, that also emphasized the responsible use of AI, where that's by the end of the day, you can ask AI to write a proposal, to write your resume, but if you cannot do the job and you are not serving the community, you don't own the problem, even you are given the job, you are given the grant, you cannot really do it because you are not who you are, and then presented by AI. And I think, that's how to respond to use of AI becoming very important, and not cause people problem for others. It's also cause problem for yourself. Even you get a job, you get a grant. Yeah. And Mariana.
Yeah, so going back a little bit on the question you posed about what can be done, what can people do, right? I think there are different solutions. So if you're a university and you want to train your students, the best service you can give them is not to go after the latest AI development, because by the time they're going to be facing the job market, new AI may be coming in. So one great service you can give them is give you foundational knowledge about critical thinking, about how to communicate things clearly, how to deal with people and work with others in an effective way. Like that kind of foundational liberal arts education is what gonna actually get them ahead in the long run, as opposed to the latest AI sort of fad, if you will, or development. So that's for like the younger folks. For people already in the job and they want to just do upskilling, there are things that can be done, right? On the one hand, you can like learn more about something that it's going to be more and more present, namely the sort of the policy legislative side of AI. If you want to there are certificates on AI governance. If it makes sense for your role, companies are building ethical boards, if companies are building responsible AI boards, committees or whatnot, sometimes because they are required by legislators. You want to know about kind of the legislative aspect of AI a little better to kind of navigate those kind of landscape. If you're not interested in that part, there's definitely some like basic skills that you can learn about AI, because once AI is going to come in, probably not going to replace you entirely. It's going to replace parts of what you do. Like if you're working in an office, ChatGPT may cut your time in half when you're writing emails. But there are going to be other things that you might kind of use your time for. So what I'm suggesting is be kind of creative in sort of getting yourself out there, thinking about what am I going to do with the extra time that I have, and how can I use AI to work for me and not just against me as part of the workforce.
Thank you. Just quickly, Divan, and your last words before we end the session.
Yeah, no, I think, look, critical thinking, analytical skills, communication are going to be gold mine in human employees. For now, we have to deal with systems like ChatGPT and all, but I think the future where that gets added on to robots means that there's going to be a further disruption and a world that a lot of people haven't kind of even thought of, right? There is going to be a lot of job losses, because I think, Jyoting, you mentioned something very, very pertinent, that who's replacing those jobs, right? And and I go back to what I said at the start of this conversation. If you're average at your job, if you're not good at your job, you're probably going to get replaced by maybe not by AI, but by a human who knows how to effectively use AI better than you can. And I think that's where the rub is. So yeah, there will be losses. You can look at numbers from different consulting agencies. It will come down to educational institutions and to corporates to figure out how they want to have the right mix. I wrote an article back in December 2000, I think 22 or 2 years ago, about the fact that governments will also have to start thinking about human-linked, incentive schemes, because at some point of time, societies will start facing job losses at a level that kind of they haven't factored. Because people, organizations as it is right now, take out the bottom 10% performance, right? But that number is going to go up, and it's going to grow across the stack. Middle managers and senior managers who cost a lot of money to the companies, if they're not good, but your peer is good at using AI and can 10x their productivity, you'll have a target painted on your back. So absolutely, I mean, it's going to be a future that is going to be worth kind of looking, but people should get ready with at least critical thinking, communication, and analytical skills. That those are the three things that will help you at least tide over a lot of these changes that are happening.
Thank you all, and I think again, we can just continue this conversation for a whole day. And there's so many exciting things going on, and then there's also many of the alarming, concerning things happening. We have the AI 2030 watch, and which just monthly we show the AI related court cases and who are being sued for what. So there, interestingly, that's a lot of those stars in the AI side, and you see a lot of glorious story about that. And then on the other side, you see that they are being sued by the customers, by the people who their data being used in a way which is not responsibly and all that. So just from the use case, exciting things, and also the negative impact which are the emerging, and then people are deprived of their right from just getting loans or getting their insurance claim, and then or just through AI related application. And so in general, this is definitely an area where you need a lot more attention, and then people who serve different community, and I think you are very representing that. And where that everyone need to just dive deep into the positive and the negative, and then find a way that's how we can just collaboratively solving those problems together. With that, thank you again for my excellent panel. And in 2 weeks, and at the next emerging technology community roundtable, and then we'll just continue this conversation. And thank you again for you being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Yes, bye.
Bye.